The operating room smelled of antiseptic and fear. Dr. Michael Patterson's hands, steady through 30 years of surgery, hesitated above the open incision on Tyler Carter's back. The young nurse beside him had gone pale, her gloved hand pressed against her mask. "Doctor?" she whispered. Patterson didn't answer. He couldn't. Inside the cyst they'd just opened, what the 23-year-old personal trainer had dismissed as just a pimple for 3 months, lay something that made even his experienced eyes widen. Hair, long strands of brown hair, identical to Tyler's own, and something white, gleaming, perfect. Teeth. The nurse turned away, fighting her gag reflex. The surgical tech leaned closer, his breath catching. "Jesus Christ," someone muttered. But that wasn't all. Patterson's forceps carefully lifted another structure, bone, and beneath it, tissue that shouldn't exist. In the waiting room 3 floors below, Emma Reynolds clutched her phone, checking the time again. The surgery should have ended 20 minutes ago. She had no idea what they'd found inside the man she loved. Leave a like and share your thoughts in the comments along with the city you're watching from now. Let's continue with the story. Tyler James Carter had always been proud of his body. At 23, he stood 6'2" with the kind of build that made people stop and stare at the gym. His Instagram was full of progress photos, motivational quotes, and clients he'd transformed. Progress, not perfection, he'd caption his posts, flexing in the mirror at Iron Will Fitness Center, where he'd worked since graduating high school. He'd grown up in Round Rock, a quiet suburb north of Austin, Texas, raised by his mother, Sarah, after his father died when Tyler was 7. He barely remembered the man, just fragments of memory, a blue shirt, strong hands lifting him onto broad shoulders. His father's death had left a hole Tyler spent his teenage years trying to fill with weights and protein shakes, building himself into someone who couldn't be broken. Now he made his living teaching others about their bodies, lecturing clients on proper form and the importance of listening to physical signals. The irony wasn't lost on him later. He'd been so busy perfecting everyone else that he'd completely ignored himself. Emma Louise Reynolds was different from the girls Tyler usually dated. 22, blonde, with sharp blue eyes that missed nothing, she was a third-year nursing student specializing in wound care and dermatology. They'd met 18 months ago when she'd signed up for personal training, and Tyler had fallen for her intelligence first, her beauty second. She asked questions he'd never heard before. She wanted to understand the why behind every exercise, every movement. Emma made him think, made him feel, and lately she'd been making him nervous with how closely she watched him. Sarah Elizabeth Carter, 50 years old and 16 years a widow, had built a quiet life as an elementary school librarian. She lived alone in the small house where Tyler had grown up, surrounded by books and photographs of people who weren't there anymore. Her brother Samuel's dog tags from Vietnam hung on the wall beside her wedding photo. She'd lost too many people, some to war, some to time, some to things she'd never fully understood. When Tyler visited every Sunday for dinner, she'd study his face the way she used to when he was young, searching for signs of fever or sadness. She'd learned long ago that men in her family didn't always say when something was wrong. They waited. They stayed silent. And sometimes that silence killed them. Austin in the summer of 2024 was brutal. Heat waves pushed temperatures to 105 degrees daily. The city that prided itself on fitness culture became a test of endurance. People still ran, still trained, still pushed themselves under the relentless Texas sun. It was the kind of heat that made everything worse, including things growing quietly beneath the skin. It was a Sunday morning in early June when Emma first noticed it. They'd planned a lazy day at Barton Springs Pool, and Tyler stood shirtless in his apartment bathroom while Emma squeezed sunscreen onto her palm. The AC rattled against the heat already building outside. "Turn around," she said. "I'll get your back." Tyler complied, scrolling through his phone with one hand. Emma's fingers spread the lotion across his shoulders, working down toward his spine. Then her hand stopped. Her fingers pressed against something between his shoulder blades, just to the right of center. "What's this?" she asked. Tyler glanced back. "What's what?" "This bump. Right here." Her finger circled a raised area about the size of a dime. He shrugged, making her hand slip away. "Probably just a pimple. I've been sweating like crazy at the gym." But Emma's nursing instincts were already firing. She pressed the spot again, gently. It wasn't soft like a pimple. It was hard, firm, deep under the skin. "Tyler, this doesn't feel like acne." "Babe, I'm 23 and I work out 6 hours a day. Sometimes I get zits on my back. It's normal." He turned around and kissed her forehead. "Stop worrying." She wanted to argue, but Tyler was already pulling on a shirt, ready to leave. Emma pulled out her phone and quickly snapped a photo of his back when he wasn't looking. Something about that bump bothered her. The first week, Tyler ignored it completely. He applied some acne cream he found under his sink and forgot about it. But by the second week, the bump had grown. Now it was the size of a quarter, raised and slightly red around the edges. When he did bench press, it ached. "Maybe it's from that back extension machine," he told Emma when she asked again. "I think the padding's dirty." He spent an afternoon deep cleaning all the equipment at Iron Will Fitness, scrubbing down the benches and wiping every surface. Marcus, the gym owner, found mold growing on one of the back machines and immediately replaced the padding. "See?" Tyler said to Emma that night. "Problem solved." But the bump kept growing. By week 3, Tyler had to cancel his heaviest back exercises with clients. He claimed scheduling conflicts, but the truth was he couldn't lie flat on his back anymore without pain shooting through his shoulder blade. At night, he'd twist in front of his bathroom mirror, holding up his phone to try to see the bump clearly. It was impossible. The angle was wrong, and asking Emma for help felt like admitting weakness. He was a personal trainer. His job was to be physically perfect, to be the example. How could he stand in front of clients and preach body awareness when he had some ugly growth on his back? Emma wasn't fooled. She watched him wince when he reached for things, noticed how he'd started sleeping on his side exclusively. One night, while Tyler slept, she took another photo of his back. The bump had doubled in size since that first Sunday. She texted the image to her professor at nursing school, Dr. Linda Hayes, a dermatology specialist. The response came the next morning. "Emma, that needs clinical evaluation ASAP. Could be a cyst, abscess, or something more serious. Make him see a doctor." Emma stared at the message, her stomach tight with worry. Making Tyler see a doctor was going to be the hardest thing she'd ever done, because Tyler Carter didn't admit weakness, and that stubbornness might kill him. By week 5, Tyler looked like hell. His face had gone pale, dark circles shadowing his eyes. Emma had been watching the color drain from him day by day, and when he walked through his apartment door that Thursday evening, she was waiting with her phone in hand. "We need to talk," she said. Tyler dropped his gym bag and headed straight for the kitchen. "I'm exhausted, Em. Can we—" "No." Her voice was firm. "Look at these." She held up her phone, swiping through photos. The first showed his back from that initial Sunday in June. A small red bump, barely noticeable. Then week 2, week 3. The progression was undeniable. The most recent photo, taken that morning while he showered, showed a raised mass the size of a golf ball, angry red and visibly swollen even through his shirt. Tyler stared at the screen. His hand gripped the kitchen counter. "You took pictures of me?" His voice was tight. "Yes, because you won't look at yourself." Emma's hands trembled. "Tyler," This has been growing for 5 weeks. It's not going away, it's getting worse. It's just a cyst or something. You'll what? Ignore it until you die? Emma's voice cracked. I sent that photo to my professor. She says you need to see a doctor immediately. This could be infected. It could be. You went behind my back? Tyler's face flushed. You showed my medical stuff to your professor without asking me? Because you won't listen. Emma was crying now. You teach people about their bodies every single day, but you won't take care of your own. What is wrong with you? It's my body, Emma. My choice what I do with it. And my heart that breaks if you die because you're too proud to get help. The words hung between them. Tyler turned away, facing the window. The Austin skyline glowed in the evening heat. His reflection in the glass looked like a stranger. I can't walk into a doctor's office with a pimple, he said quietly. Do you know how stupid I'd look? I'm a personal trainer. I'm supposed to be the picture of health. You're supposed to be alive, Emma whispered. She walked to him, placed her hand on his shoulder. Please, please just get it checked. If I'm wrong, I'll never bring it up again. But if I'm right, Tyler closed his eyes. I'm scared, he admitted. What if it's something bad? Then we deal with it. Together. Emma moved in front of him, took his face in her hands. But we can't deal with what we don't know. The next morning, Tyler drove to his mother's house. He hadn't planned to tell Sarah, but he needed advice. Needed someone who'd known him his whole life to tell him he wasn't being crazy. Sarah took one look at her son and knew something was wrong. Mothers always knew. You look sick, she said, touching his forehead. Are you sleeping? Mom, I need to show you something. In her living room, Tyler lifted his shirt and turned around. He heard his mother's sharp intake of breath. Tyler? Her voice was strange, hollow. He turned back. Sarah had gone white, sinking into her chair like her legs had given out. Mom, what's wrong? Your father, she whispered. He had something like this. On his back. Tyler's stomach dropped. What? When? 1995. Before you were born. Sarah's hands were shaking. He had surgery to remove it. The doctor said it was... I can't remember the name. Some kind of growth. And then what happened? Sarah's eyes met his. In them, Tyler saw something that terrified him more than the bump on his back. He saw grief. Old, deep grief that had never healed. He was fine, she said, but her voice carried no conviction. Everything was fine after. Tyler knew his mother, knew when she was telling him everything and when she was holding something back. This was the latter. Mom, he said slowly. How did Dad die? Sarah stood abruptly. I need to show you something. She disappeared into her bedroom and returned with a metal box Tyler had never seen before. Inside were papers, old photographs, and medical records. On top was an X-ray dated April 1995. The name at the top read James Tyler Carter, Tyler's father, and on the image, clear as day, was a mass, right where Tyler's bump was now. You need to see a doctor, Sarah said, her voice breaking. Today. Please, Tyler. I can't lose you too. That afternoon, Emma drove Tyler to Morrison Dermatology Clinic on Congress Avenue. His hands were shaking when he filled out the intake forms. The waiting room at Morrison Dermatology smelled like lavender and disinfectant. Tyler sat rigidly in a chair too small for his frame, his leg bouncing with nervous energy. Emma held his hand, her thumb tracing circles on his palm the way she did when she was trying to calm him down. Tyler Carter? A nurse appeared in the doorway, clipboard in hand. They followed her down a hallway lined with diagrams of skin conditions. Tyler tried not to look at them. Emma squeezed his hand tighter. Dr. Rachel Morrison was 42, with short red hair and kind eyes behind frameless glasses. She shook Tyler's hand firmly, then Emma's, before gesturing to the examination table. "So, Tyler, tell me what brings you in today." He explained about the bump, minimizing how long he'd waited, leaving out the fights with Emma. Dr. Morrison listened without interrupting, making notes on her tablet. "Let's take a look," she said. "Shirt off, please." Tyler pulled his shirt over his head and turned around. He felt Dr. Morrison's cool fingers probe the area between his shoulder blades. She was quiet for a long moment. "How long did you say you've had this?" "About 5 weeks," Tyler said. "And you're certain it wasn't there before that?" "I mean, I guess I never really looked at my back that closely, but—" "Tyler," Dr. Morrison's voice had changed, become more serious. "This feels very deep, subcutaneous. It's not surface acne." Tyler turned to look at her. "So, what is it? An infection? I'm going to prescribe antibiotics as a precaution, but I need imaging. Today, if possible." She was already typing on her tablet. "I'm ordering an ultrasound. We have a tech available this afternoon if you can stay." "Is it that serious?" Emma asked. Dr. Morrison met her eyes. "I don't want to speculate until we see what's underneath." But this isn't something to ignore. 2 hours later, Tyler lay face down on an examination table while a technician spread cold gel across his back. The ultrasound wand pressed against his skin, and he watched the technician's face on a monitor mounted to the wall. She was young, professional, her expression giving nothing away. But Tyler saw her eyes widen, saw her lean closer to her screen. "Is everything okay?" he asked. "The doctor will review these images with you," she said, neutrally. That evening, Tyler's phone rang. Dr. Morrison's name appeared on the screen. "Tyler, I need you to come back tomorrow. I'm scheduling an MRI." His stomach turned to ice. "Why? What did you see?" "The ultrasound shows a solid mass with defined borders. There's complex internal structure that I can't fully evaluate with ultrasound alone. An MRI will give us better detail." "Dr. Morrison, please just tell me, is it cancer?" A pause. "I don't believe so. But I need clearer imaging before I can say for certain what we're dealing with." Tyler barely slept that night. Emma stayed over, holding him in the dark while he stared at the ceiling. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw his father's X-ray, saw his mother's face when she'd gone pale. The MRI took 45 minutes. Tyler had to lie perfectly still inside a tube while machinery clanged and hummed around him. He focused on breathing, on not panicking. When it was over, they told him Dr. Morrison would call with results in 24 hours. Those 24 hours felt like 24 years. When his phone finally rang, Tyler was at the gym, pretending to work. Emma had driven over immediately when he texted her. They sat in his truck in the parking lot, the phone on speaker between them. "Tyler, Emma, I need you both to come into the office. I want to go over the results in person." "Dr. Morrison, please," Tyler said. "I can't wait." "Just tell me now." Another pause. "All right. Tyler, the MRI shows a dermoid cyst. It's approximately 8 centimeters. "Is that cancer?" Tyler interrupted. "No. It's benign. But Tyler, this isn't a simple cyst. The imaging shows calcifications inside dense structures." Emma's hand went to her mouth. Her medical training was kicking in. "What kind of structures?" "That's why I need you to come in. This is complex, and I think we need to discuss your options face to face." The next morning, Tyler and Emma sat across from Dr. Morrison in her private office. The MRI images glowed on a large screen behind her desk. Tyler could see the mass on his back, a white oval shape with strange bright spots scattered throughout. "I'm going to be direct with you," Dr. Morrison began. "You have what's called a dermoid cyst. These form from embryonic cells, cells that are present from birth. They grow slowly, which is why you're only noticing it now at 23. From birth?" Tyler's voice was hoarse. "This has been inside me my whole life?" "Yes." Dr. Morrison pointed to the screen. "See these white areas? Those are calcifications, hard structures. In dermoid cysts, we sometimes find unusual tissue types, hair follicles, skin, and sometimes," she paused, "sometimes teeth or bone fragments." The room seemed to tilt. Tyler gripped the arms of his chair. "You're telling me I have teeth growing in my back?" "Based on the density and shape of these calcifications, yes, it's possible." Emma's voice was quiet. "Is this vanishing twin syndrome?" Dr. Morrison turned to her, impressed. "You know about that?" "I'm a nursing student. We studied it briefly. When one twin is absorbed by the other in early pregnancy." Tyler's head was spinning. "Wait, what? Are you saying I had a twin?" Dr. Morrison nodded slowly. "It's one explanation. Sometimes in twin pregnancies, one fetus stops developing very early. The tissue gets absorbed by the surviving twin. That tissue can form these cysts. They contain elements of what the twin might have become." Tyler stood abruptly, pacing to the window. His reflection stared back at him, but he barely recognized himself. "I've been carrying my brother or sister inside me for 23 years? We don't know for certain it's from a twin," Dr. Morrison said carefully. "Dermoid cysts can form from your own embryonic cells. But given the complexity shown on your MRI, vanishing twin syndrome is likely." "Did my parents know?" Tyler asked. "Did they know I was supposed to be a twin?" "That's something you'd need to ask your mother." Tyler pulled out his phone and called Sarah. She answered on the first ring. "Mom," he said, "did you know I was a twin?" Silence. Then, so quietly he almost couldn't hear, "Yes." That evening, Tyler drove to his mother's house alone. Emma had offered to come, but he needed to do this by himself. Sarah was waiting at the kitchen table, her hands wrapped around a mug of tea she wasn't drinking. "Why didn't you tell me?" Tyler asked. Sarah's eyes were red. "Sit down, Tyler, please." He sat. "When I was 12 weeks pregnant," Sarah began, "the ultrasound showed 2 heartbeats, 2 babies. Your father and I were terrified and thrilled at the same time." Her voice caught. "But at 16 weeks, 1 heartbeat was gone. Just gone. The doctor said it was vanishing twin syndrome. He said it happens more often than people think. 1 in 8 pregnancies that start as twins ends up as a single birth. And you never told me. We decided, your father and I, that we wanted you to feel whole, complete. We didn't want you growing up feeling like you'd lost something, like you were supposed to be someone else." "Did you name them?" Tyler's voice was barely a whisper. "My twin?" Sarah's tears spilled over. "Samuel. We named him Samuel, after my brother." Tyler remembered the dog tags on the wall, the photos of a young man in uniform. "Your brother who died in Vietnam." "Yes, Samuel Joseph. He was 21 when he died. His body was never recovered." Sarah wiped her eyes. "When we lost the twin, it felt like losing Samuel all over again. So we gave him that name, to honor them both." Tyler felt like he couldn't breathe. "So I've been carrying someone named after someone you lost?" "In a way, yes. I know that sounds crazy. Maybe it is crazy. But it gave me comfort. Like I got a piece of Samuel back, even if just in name." "Did Dad have one too? A dermoid cyst?" Sarah stood and went to her bedroom. She returned with the metal box Tyler had seen before. She opened it carefully, pulling out medical records, x-rays, and at the bottom, a sealed envelope. "Your father had his surgery in 1995, Sarah said. "Same diagnosis, dermoid cyst on his back, same location as yours. The surgery went well. They removed it completely. He recovered." "So why are you acting like this is a death sentence?" Sarah's hands trembled as she held the envelope. "Because 13 years later, in 2008, he started having pain. Scar tissue from the surgery had caused complications, internal adhesions. By the time they diagnosed the infection, it had spread. Sepsis." Her voice broke. "He died in 3 days, Tyler. 3 days." The floor seemed to drop away beneath Tyler's feet. "He died from this?" "Not from the cyst. From complications years later. But yes, it started with that surgery." Sarah pushed the envelope across the table. "He wrote this for you. The year before he died. He knew there might be a genetic component. He wanted you to have this if you ever needed it." Tyler's hands shook as he opened the envelope. Inside was a letter in his father's handwriting dated March 2007. "Tyler, if you're reading this, it means you found what I found. I'm sorry, son. I'm so sorry I passed this to you. The doctors told me dermoid cysts can be genetic, though it's rare. I've lived with the guilt of that for years. But here's what I learned. That thing inside us isn't a curse. It's proof that we carry our family with us. Always. Even when we think we're alone. I carried my twin, just like you're carrying yours. We're not one person, son. We're two. We always were. Get it removed. Don't wait like I did. Don't be stubborn. I know you will be. You're my son. But please, Tyler, listen to the people who love you. Listen to your mother. Listen to Emma if she's still around. They see what we can't see about ourselves. And know this. Even if I'm not there, when you read this, I'm inside you. The same way Samuel is inside you. You're never alone, son. You're never alone. I love you more than I ever said out loud. Dad." Tyler read the letter 3 times. By the 3rd time he was crying so hard he couldn't see the words. Sarah came around the table and held him the way she had when he was 7, and they'd buried his father. When everything had fallen apart. "I'm scared, Mom," he whispered. "I'm so scared." "I know, baby. I know." The next day, Dr. Morrison called with the name of a surgeon, Dr. Michael Patterson, 55, with 30 years of experience in complex excisions. Tyler's insurance company, however, had other plans. 1 week later, the denial letter arrived. "Pre-existing condition," Tyler read aloud to Emma. "They're denying coverage because I was born with it. How is that legal?" Emma grabbed her laptop, already researching appeal processes. "We'll fight it. The surgery costs $78,000. Tyler's voice was hollow. "I have $8,000 in savings. That's it." The next morning at the gym, Marcus Stone called Tyler into his office. The owner was 55, built like a tank, with a long scar visible on his shoulder when he wore tank tops. "I heard about your insurance," Marcus said without preamble. "I'm starting a GoFundMe." "Marcus, I can't accept—" "You're not accepting anything. The community is offering." Marcus lifted his shirt, showing a 10-inch scar across his back. "I had the same thing 20 years ago. I waited 2 years because I was proud and stupid. When they finally operated, the infection had spread. I almost died." Tyler stared at the scar. "Pride nearly killed me," Marcus said. "Don't be me, kid. Let people help." Within 72 hours, the GoFundMe had raised $52,000. Tyler read every comment, every donation. Clients he'd trained for years, people he'd never met, strangers moved by his story. One comment made him stop. "I lost my son because he ignored symptoms. He was too proud to go to the doctor until it was too late. Please, Tyler, get help. Let us help you live." Tyler called Dr. Patterson's office and scheduled the surgery. 2 weeks before the operation, Tyler couldn't sleep. Emma stayed with him every night, but the nightmares came anyway. Dreams of operating tables, of never waking up, of his father's face telling him it was too late. The night before surgery, Sarah brought over his father's blue shirt, freshly washed and pressed. "For luck," she said. "Wear it to the hospital." The three of them, Tyler, Emma, and Sarah, sat at Tyler's small dining table, picking at the meal Emma had cooked. No one was hungry. Finally, Tyler spoke. "If something happens, nothing will happen," Sarah said firmly. "But if it does, I need you both to know," his voice cracked, "I love you, both of you. Emma, you saved my life by being stubborn. Mom, you've held this family together for 16 years. You're the strongest person I know." Emma took his hand. "You're going to wake up, and I'll be right there, I promise." That night, alone on his balcony, Tyler looked up at the full moon. He touched the spot on his back where the mass sat, foreign and familiar at once. "Samuel," he whispered, "I'm sorry I didn't know you were there. Tomorrow I let you go. I hope you're at peace. I hope wherever you are, you know you weren't alone either." The wind picked up, rustling through the trees, and for just a moment, Tyler felt something like an answer. St. David's Medical Center looked sterile and cold in the pre-dawn darkness. Tyler arrived at 6 in the morning with Emma and Sarah flanking him like bodyguards. He wore his father's blue shirt under his jacket, the fabric soft from years of washing, smelling faintly of his mother's lavender detergent. The pre-op area was curtained cubicles filled with the sounds of IV pumps and hushed conversations. A nurse with tired eyes checked Tyler in, wrapping a blood pressure cuff around his arm and sliding an IV port into his hand. He flinched at the needle stick. "You'll feel a little pinch," she said, too late. Emma sat in the chair beside his bed, holding his free hand. Sarah stood at the foot of the bed, gripping the railing like it might keep her son anchored to the earth. Neither woman had slept. It showed in the dark circles under their eyes, the tension in their shoulders. "Any jewelry or watches?" the nurse asked. Emma unclasped her grandmother's Timex from her wrist. The watch had stopped working years ago, frozen permanently at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. She'd never had it fixed. Her grandmother had been holding her hand wearing that watch when she'd died. Emma pressed it into Tyler's palm now. "For luck," she whispered. His fingers closed around it. The metal was warm from her skin. Dr. Patterson appeared at 7:15, wearing surgical scrubs and a cap that covered his gray hair. He looked exactly like what Tyler needed, confident, experienced, calm. "Ready?" the surgeon asked. Tyler's throat was too tight to speak. He nodded. "The procedure should take 2 to 3 hours, Dr. Patterson explained, though he'd gone over this twice already. General anesthesia. You'll be face down on the table. We'll make an incision approximately 6 to 8 inches long, remove the entire cyst intact if possible, and close you up. You'll wake in recovery." "What are the risks?" Sarah asked, though she knew. She'd asked this question 3 times already, too. "Infection, bleeding, damage to surrounding nerves or muscle? There's a slight risk with any general anesthesia. But you're young and healthy, Tyler. The odds are very much in your favor." Odds? Tyler hated that word. His father had been healthy too. Until he wasn't. The anesthesiologist arrived next. A woman in her 40s with a kind face. She explained how the medications would work, how Tyler would drift off and then simply wake up when it was over, like no time had passed at all. "What if I don't wake up?" Tyler asked. She smiled gently. "I've done this 5,000 times. You will." At 7:45 it was time. An orderly appeared to wheel Tyler's bed toward the operating room. This was it, the moment when he had to let go and trust that other people could save him. Sarah leaned down and kissed his forehead, her hand cupping his face. "Your father is watching over you." "Samuel, too." "Both Samuels?" Tyler asked. "Yes, both of them." She pulled a small photograph from her purse. Tyler, as a baby, cradled in his father's strong arms. James Carter looked impossibly young in the photo, maybe 25, his whole life ahead of him. Sarah tucked the photo into Tyler's hand beside the watch. "He was so proud of you, and so am I." Tyler's vision blurred with tears. "I love you, Mom. I love you more than you'll ever know." Emma was last. She held Tyler's face in both hands, forcing him to look at her. Her blue eyes were fierce despite the tears streaming down her cheeks. "Look at me," she said. "I'll be right here. Every second. When you open your eyes, you'll see my face. That's a promise." "Promise?" Tyler held up his pinky finger, the gesture absurdly childish in this moment. Emma hooked her pinky with his, the way children do. "Promise." The orderly released the brake on the bed. Tyler was moving now, wheeled backward down a long hallway. And he kept his eyes on Emma and Sarah until the automatic doors swung closed between them. Then he was alone with strangers who held his life in their hands. The operating room was exactly like the ones on television, too bright, too cold, too real. A table waited in the center, surrounded by machines and monitors and instrument trays covered in sterile blue drapes. The surgical team was already there. 6 people total, all masked and gowned, their eyes the only human part of them visible. "Tyler, we're going to position you face down now," a nurse said. "You'll be looking through this face support here. It might feel strange, but try to relax." They helped him roll onto his stomach. His face settled into a padded cushion with an opening for his nose and mouth. All he could see now was the floor. White tile, spotlessly clean, cold as death. The anesthesiologist's voice came from somewhere above him. "You're going to feel the mask over your face now. Just breathe normally. I want you to count backward from 10 for me." The mask settled over his nose and mouth. Gas flowed, smelling medicinal and wrong. 10, Tyler said, his voice muffled. His mother's face appeared in his mind, then Emma's, then his father's, young and smiling in that photograph. 9. What if I don't wake up? 8. What if this is the last thing I ever... Sev. Darkness swallowed him whole. In the surgical waiting room, Emma and Sarah sat in chairs bolted to the floor, uncomfortable by design so people wouldn't fall asleep. Emma held her rosary beads even though she wasn't Catholic, wasn't even particularly religious. Sarah had pressed them into her hands that morning. Now Emma's fingers worked over the smooth beads, counting prayers she didn't know the words to. Sarah had her Bible open in her lap, but she wasn't reading. Her eyes were unfocused, her lips moving silently. Emma recognized the shape of the words, Psalms, the same chapter over and over. At 7:50, a volunteer appeared with coffee and styrofoam cups. Emma accepted one just to have something to hold. It went cold in her hands, untouched. 8 o'clock came and went. The surgery had officially started, though they had no way of knowing, no updates, no news, just the terrible weight of waiting. At 8:30, Dr. Morrison appeared in the doorway. She'd come, even though she wasn't part of the surgical team, just to sit with them, to provide support. "No news is good news," she said, settling into a chair beside Emma. Dr. Patterson is excellent. The best in Austin. What if something goes wrong? Emma's voice was small. Tyler is young, healthy, strong. The odds. Everyone keeps talking about odds, Sarah interrupted, her voice sharp. My husband was young and healthy and strong, and he died anyway. Dr. Morrison fell silent. There was nothing to say to that. Sometimes the odds didn't matter. Sometimes people died anyway. 9 o'clock. Emma checked her phone for the 100th time, even though there was no signal in the waiting room. The walls were too thick. She stood and walked to the window, looking out over the parking lot where real life continued, people coming and going, the sun climbing higher, the world moving forward while hers stood still. At 9:15, Sarah spoke. When James had his surgery, it took 90 minutes. They told us 2 hours, but he was out in 90 minutes. Her hands were shaking. It's been over 2 hours. Complex surgeries take longer, Dr. Morrison said. That's normal. That's expected. But Emma could hear the slight uncertainty in her voice. The surgery should be wrapping up soon. Should be. The word hung heavy between them. 9:30 came, the estimated end time. Sarah stood, unable to sit any longer. Emma joined her at the window. Dr. Morrison watched the door, 9:45. Still nothing. Why hasn't anyone updated us? Emma asked. A nurse passing in the hallway heard her. She paused, then approached. Let me check on the status for you. She disappeared. 10 minutes crawled by. When she returned, her face was professionally neutral. Still in surgery. He's doing well. Vitals are stable. What does doing well mean? Emma demanded. Is there a complication? Why is it taking so long? Sometimes the anatomy is more complex than the imaging suggested. Dr. Patterson is being thorough. That's a good thing. After she left, Sarah sank back into her chair. James's surgery was simple, just 90 minutes. And look what happened to him anyway. At 10:15, the waiting room doors opened. Dr. Patterson stood there, still in his surgical scrubs, his cap pulled down low. His face was tired, but Emma's heart caught. He was smiling. Emma and Sarah jumped to their feet. Is he? Emma couldn't finish the sentence. He's alive, Dr. Patterson said. Surgery was successful. Tyler did beautifully. Sarah's legs gave out. She collapsed back into her chair, sobbing into her hands. Emma grabbed the surgeon's arm, needing something solid to hold on to. Can we see him? He's in recovery now. He should be waking up soon. Give us about 30 minutes. What did you find? Emma asked. What was inside? Dr. Patterson's smile faded slightly. He glanced toward a private consultation room. Let's talk. Dr. Patterson closed the door to the small consultation room. The walls were painted a soft blue, meant to be calming, but Emma felt nothing but dread as she and Sarah sat in chairs that faced the surgeon across a narrow table. Dr. Morrison had joined them, standing near the wall with her arms crossed. Tyler is stable, Dr. Patterson began. That's the most important thing, but I need to be honest with you about what we found. Sarah's hands were clenched so tightly in her lap that her knuckles had gone white. Emma reached over and covered them with her own. The cyst was larger than the MRI indicated, Dr. Patterson continued. 12 centimeters instead of 8, nearly 5 inches, and it was adhered to the muscle tissue very close to the spine. We had to be extremely careful during the removal. But you got it all? Emma asked. Yes, clean margins, no remaining tissue. Pathology will analyze everything, but from what I could see, the removal was complete. What was inside it? Sarah's voice was barely a whisper. Dr. Patterson exhaled slowly. Mrs. Carter, Emma, in my 30 years as a surgeon, I've removed dozens of dermoid cysts, but I've never seen one quite like this. He paused, seeming to choose his words carefully. We found extensive teratomatous elements. Hair, approximately 12 centimeters long, the same color and texture as Tyler's. 3 fully formed teeth, molars, perfectly shaped. Bone fragments including what appeared to be vertebrae segments. Eye tissue with early retinal development. Emma's medical training kept her grounded, but Sarah had gone pale as paper. And there was one more thing, Dr. Patterson said quietly. Microscopic examination revealed primitive neural tissue, brain cells in very early developmental stages. The room seemed to stop breathing. Brain tissue? Emma repeated. You're saying Tyler's twin had developed brain cells? Rudimentary neurons, yes. This wasn't just a cluster of random cells. This was tissue that had begun the process of formation, of becoming something more. Sarah stood abruptly and walked to the window, her back to them. Her shoulders shook with silent sobs. So Samuel was real, Emma said softly. Not just a medical condition, a person who almost was. I can't make that determination, Dr. Patterson said. What constitutes personhood, consciousness, life, those are philosophical questions beyond my scope. What I can tell you is that the tissue showed early organizational structure, more developed than typical vanishing twin cases. How much do we tell Tyler? Sarah asked without turning around. Will knowing this help him or hurt him? That's your family's decision to make, Dr. Patterson replied. But in my experience, the truth, however difficult, is usually better than questions that can never be answered. Emma stood and walked to Sarah, placing a hand on the older woman's shoulder. He needs to know. All of it. No more secrets. Sarah turned, her eyes red and swollen. I tried to protect him. That's all I've ever tried to do. I know, Emma said gently. But you can't protect him from his own body, from his own truth. Secrets are what nearly killed him, Dr. Morrison added from her position by the wall. Tyler learned not to trust his instincts because the people he loved kept things from him. If you want him to heal, truly heal, it has to start with honesty. Sarah looked at Emma for a long moment, then nodded slowly. You're right. No more secrets. There's one more thing, Dr. Patterson said. The specimen will be sent to pathology for full analysis. But if Tyler wishes to see it before it's processed, that can be arranged. See it? Sarah's voice rose. Why would he want to see that? For closure, Emma said immediately. To say goodbye to Samuel, to make it real. It's disturbing, traumatic, he shouldn't. It's his choice, Emma interrupted, not ours. Tyler is an adult. He has the right to know what was inside him, to see it if he needs to. Sarah looked like she wanted to argue, but something in Emma's expression stopped her. Perhaps she recognized that this young woman loved her son with the same fierce protectiveness she herself felt. Perhaps she realized that Emma was right. When can we see him? Sarah asked Dr. Patterson. He should be waking up any moment now. But I need to warn you, coming out of anesthesia can be disorienting. He may be confused, emotional. He'll be in significant pain despite the medication. And Mrs. Carter, there's something else you should know. Sarah tensed. What? Tyler stopped breathing on his own for approximately 3.5 hours. He was on a ventilator during surgery. Now, that's completely normal, but sometimes patients take longer than expected to resume spontaneous respiration after the breathing tube is removed. Tyler has been in recovery for 45 minutes now, and he hasn't woken yet. What does that mean? Emma's voice was sharp with panic. It could mean nothing. Some patients simply need more time. His vital signs are stable. Good heart rate, good blood pressure, good oxygen saturation. But he's not responding to stimulation, not opening his eyes. We've called for a neurological consult just to be safe. The words hit Emma like a physical blow. "You think something's wrong with his brain?" "I think we're being cautious. That's all. Give us another hour. If he hasn't woken by then, we'll run additional tests." Sarah's face had drained of all color. "Just like James," she whispered. "The surgery went fine." And then everything fell apart. In the post-anesthesia care unit, Tyler floated in darkness. He could hear voices, distant, muffled, like he was underwater. Someone was calling his name. Emma? His mother? He tried to answer, but his mouth wouldn't move. His body felt impossibly heavy, anchored to something he couldn't see. Was he dying? Was this what his father had felt? Then slowly, images began forming in his mind, not quite dreams. Something else. Memories that weren't his own. He saw himself as a baby. But there were two of him. Two infants lying side by side in an ultrasound image, their tiny hearts beating in synchronized rhythm. Then one of the heartbeats began to slow, fade, stop. The darkness pulled him deeper. He was 7 years old, standing at his father's funeral. The casket was closed. Everyone told him his father looked peaceful, but Tyler never got to see, never got to say goodbye. He stood there in his small black suit, holding his mother's hand, feeling the weight of something missing, something lost. Tyler. A voice. Not from the mourners around him, but from somewhere else, somewhere deeper. He turned and saw a boy standing beside the casket. The boy looked exactly like Tyler, same brown hair, same build, same face, but slightly translucent, like he was made of mist. "Who are you?" Tyler asked, though his lips didn't move. "You know who I am, Samuel, his twin, the brother who never was. You carried me," Samuel said, "for 23 years. You kept me safe." "I didn't know you were there," Tyler said. "I'm sorry. I didn't know. I know, but I was never alone because of you." Tyler felt tears on his face, even though this wasn't real, couldn't be real. "Are you angry that they're taking you away?" Samuel shook his head. "I'm grateful. You gave me time. Now it's time for you to live without me. I don't know how." "Yes, you do. Emma's waiting." "Mom's waiting. You have to go back to them." Tyler looked around and realized they weren't at a funeral anymore. They were standing in a vast, white space, empty except for a figure in the distance. His father. James Carter, young and strong and alive, wearing that blue shirt. "Dad?" His father walked toward them, and when he smiled, Tyler remembered everything. The smell of his father's aftershave, the sound of his laugh, the feeling of being lifted onto broad shoulders and carried through the world like nothing could ever hurt him. "Tyler," his father said, "it's not your time, son. Not yet. But what if I'm scared to go back? Being scared is okay. What matters is going anyway." Samuel reached out and took Tyler's hand. It felt warm and solid and real. "Thank you for carrying me. Now I can rest, and you can live." Tyler wanted to hold on, wanted to stay in this place where everyone he'd lost was whole and present. But Samuel was already fading. His father, too. The white space dimming. "Don't forget us," his father called, "but don't let us hold you back either." "I love you," Tyler tried to say, but the darkness was pulling him up now, up toward light and sound and pain. His eyes fluttered open. Everything was too bright, too loud. The ceiling tiles above him were white and speckled and moving slightly, or maybe that was just his vision swimming. He tried to speak, but his throat was raw, scraped clean by tubes he didn't remember. "Tyler?" Emma's face appeared above him, blurred by tears. Her hand found his, squeezing tight. "You're awake. Oh, God, you're awake!" He tried to say her name, but only managed a hoarse whisper. Don't try to talk, just breathe. You're okay. You're okay. A nurse appeared on his other side, checking monitors, adjusting IV lines. Tyler, can you tell me where you are? Hospital, he managed. Good. Do you know what day it is? He had no idea. Time felt meaningless. Thursday? Close enough. How's your pain? Scale of 1 to 10? The question made him suddenly aware of his back. Fire. Knives. Something tearing. 15. I'm increasing your morphine. The nurse typed something into a computer. Within seconds, the edge came off the pain. Not gone, but dulled enough to breathe through. Sarah appeared in his field of vision, her face streaked with tears. She took his other hand, brought it to her cheek. Tyler, my baby, you came back. Mom, his voice was getting stronger. I saw Dad. And Samuel. It's the anesthesia, Emma said quickly. Sometimes people have vivid dreams. No. Tyler's grip tightened on both their hands. It was real. They were real. They told me to come back to you. Sarah's face crumpled. She bent and kissed his forehead, her tears falling onto his face. Don't you ever scare me like that again. Do you hear me? Never again. Did they get it out? Tyler asked. The cyst? Yes, Emma said. Dr. Patterson got all of it. You're going to be okay. Something in her voice made him study her face more closely. She was smiling, but her eyes held something else. Worry, fear, knowledge. What was inside? He asked. Emma glanced at Sarah, then back at him. Maybe we should talk about this when you're more alert. Tell me now. Sarah sat in the chair beside his bed, still holding his hand. Tyler, there's no easy way to say this. They found what they expected, hair, teeth, bone, but also, she paused, struggling, eye tissue and brain tissue. Very early developmental stages, but brain cells nonetheless. Tyler stared at the ceiling, processing. So, Samuel had a brain? He could think? We don't know, Emma said carefully. The tissue was very primitive. Consciousness requires much more development than what was there, but the structures were beginning to form. Tyler was quiet for a long moment. Then, I want to see it. Tyler, no, Sarah said immediately. You don't need to. Yes, I do. He looked at his mother. You kept secrets to protect me. But I'm not a child anymore. I need to see Samuel, to say goodbye properly. It's disturbing, Sarah insisted. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. I've been carrying him for 23 years without knowing. The least I can do is look him in the eye now. He doesn't have eyes, Sarah said, her voice breaking. Not real ones, just tissue. It's not a baby, Tyler. It's medical waste. He's my brother. Tyler's voice was firm despite the pain medication making him drowsy. And I want to see him. Emma squeezed his hand. If that's what you need, we'll make it happen. 3 days later, Tyler sat in a wheelchair outside the pathology lab. His back ached despite the pain medication. The incision was 8 inches long, held together with 47 staples that pulled at his skin every time he moved. But he'd insisted on being brought here before the specimen was sent away for analysis. Emma pushed his wheelchair. Sarah had chosen not to come, saying she'd already said goodbye to one Samuel and couldn't bear to do it again. Tyler understood. Some ghosts were too heavy to face twice. Dr. Patterson met them at the door, his expression grave. Tyler, I need you to be absolutely certain about this. What you're about to see will stay with you forever. I'm certain. The surgeon nodded and opened the door. The pathology lab was cold and sterile, everything stainless steel and fluorescent lights. On a metal table sat a large glass specimen jar filled with clear preservation fluid. Inside, separated and arranged for examination, were the contents of the cyst. Tyler's breath caught. The hair came first. Long strands of brown, slightly wavy, exactly like his own, floating in the fluid like seaweed. Then the teeth. 3 perfect white molars that could have come from his own mouth, small fragments of bone, delicate and curved, a tiny finger bone, complete and whole, and the eye tissue, a small mass of gray matter with what looked like the beginning of a retina. Tyler wheeled himself closer to the jar. Emma stood behind him, her hand on his shoulder. "Hi, Samuel," Tyler said quietly. "I'm Tyler, your brother. I'm sorry I didn't know you were there. I don't know what I would have done differently. But I would have known you. I would have talked to you. Told you things." His voice cracked. Emma's grip on his shoulder tightened. "Mom says you were named after our uncle. He died in Vietnam when he was 21. He never came home. But you were home all along. With me. Keeping me company, even when I felt alone." Tyler reached out and placed his palm against the cold glass. "Thank you for that. For being with me. I'm sorry they had to take you out. I'm sorry I had to let you go. But Dr. Patterson says you might help other people now. Scientists will study you, learn from you. Maybe you'll save someone else's life." He sat there for a long time, staring at the remains of the brother he never knew. Emma didn't rush him. She simply stood there, bearing witness to his grief. Finally, Tyler spoke again. "Goodbye, Samuel. Rest now. You don't have to hold on anymore. And neither do I." Dr. Patterson quietly closed the container. As Emma wheeled Tyler out of the lab, he felt something shift inside him. A weight he'd been carrying without knowing it, finally lifting. The emptiness he'd felt his whole life wasn't gone. Maybe it never would be. But it made sense now. He hadn't been incomplete. He'd been 2 people learning to be one. 6 weeks after surgery, Tyler stood shirtless in his bathroom, looking at his back in the mirror for the first time without flinching. The scar ran 8 inches down his spine, a raised red line that would fade to white over time but never disappear. 47 staples had held him together. Now they were gone, replaced by a permanent reminder of what he'd carried and what he'd survived. Emma appeared in the doorway behind him, watching his reflection. "How does it feel?" "Like proof," he said quietly. "Proof that I'm still here." She walked to him and traced the scar with her finger, the way she'd done every day while changing his bandages. "Every inch is a battle you won." Tyler turned to face her. "I've been thinking about something." "Dangerous," she teased, but her smile was soft. He pulled a small box from his pocket. Emma's breath caught. "Not yet," he said quickly. "I mean, not the big question. Not until I can get down on one knee without screaming." He opened the box. Inside was a silver ring with 3 small stones, blue, green, and white. "But I wanted you to have this. A promise ring. 3 stones for 3 people. You, me, and Samuel. Because he brought us together, in a way. You saved my life because you saw what I couldn't see." Emma's eyes filled with tears. "Tyler, you fought me to save me. You went behind my back, betrayed my trust, and you were right to do it. I was too proud and too stupid to save myself. But you weren't." He slipped the ring onto her finger. "So this is a promise, that I'll never ignore you again, that I'll listen, that I'll let you love me the way I need to be loved, even when it's hard." She threw her arms around his neck, careful of his back, and kissed him like she was still proving he was real. "I love you. I love you so much." "I love you too. And when I can bend without crying, I'm going to ask you properly." "I'll say yes," she whispered. "I'll always say yes." 3 months after surgery, Tyler returned to Iron Will Fitness, not to train, not yet, but to visit. He walked in wearing a loose t-shirt, his movements still careful, still protecting his back. The gym fell silent when people noticed him. Then Marcus started clapping. Within seconds, the entire gym joined in, clients, trainers, people Tyler had never met. One of his longtime clients, a man named Robert, who'd lost 60 pounds under Tyler's guidance, approached with tears in his eyes. "You're my hero, man. You showed me that asking for help isn't weakness. It's the strongest thing you can do." Tyler felt his throat tighten. "I just had surgery. You admitted you needed it. Do you know how many of us ignore stuff because we're too proud? You probably saved a dozen lives just by sharing your story." That night, Tyler sat at his laptop and wrote. He'd never been good with words. His body had always been his language, but he needed to say this, needed people to understand. He uploaded a photo of himself shirtless, the scar visible and prominent, and began typing. "This scar is 8 inches long. It runs down my back where they removed my twin brother Samuel, who never got to be born. For 23 years, I carried him without knowing. Inside me were his teeth, his hair, fragments of his bones, even primitive brain tissue. The medical term is vanishing twin syndrome. It happens in 1 out of every 8 pregnancies. I thought I had a pimple. I ignored it for months because I was too proud to admit something might be wrong. I'm a personal trainer. I teach people about their bodies every single day, and I almost died because I wouldn't listen to my own. My girlfriend Emma saved my life by going behind my back. She contacted doctors, pushed me to get help when I refused, and loved me enough to make me angry." If you have someone in your life doing that, begging you to see a doctor, to get checked, to stop ignoring symptoms, listen to them. They might be saving your life. We all carry ghosts. Some inside, some in our hearts. Mine is finally free. And so am I. If you're ignoring something, a lump, a pain, a symptom you keep dismissing, please get help. Pride isn't worth dying for. Had scar story. Samuel Carter. Vanishing twin. He posted it at 11 at night. By morning, it had 2 million views. The messages flooded in. People sharing their own scars, their own ignored symptoms, their own stories of survival. 3 people in the Austin area reached out directly. They'd seen Tyler's post and found lumps they'd been ignoring. All 3 went to doctors. All 3 had dermoid cysts. All 3 had successful surgeries. One woman wrote, "My son died because he was too embarrassed to tell anyone about a lump on his neck. He was 19. By the time we found out, it was too late." Thank you for being brave enough to share your story. You saved 3 people. You honored my son's memory by making sure other kids don't make his mistake. Tyler read that message 5 times, crying harder each time. Emma held him while he sobbed. "Samuel saved them," he said. "Not me. Samuel." "You both did," Emma replied. 6 months after surgery, Tyler returned to training clients. His first day back, a young man walked into the gym. He was 19, nervous, with a bandage visible under his shirt collar. "Are you Tyler Carter?" he asked. "Yeah. Can I help you?" "I saw your story. I had something similar on my shoulder blade. I was ignoring it because I was scared, but your post made me go to the doctor." He lifted his shirt slightly, showing a healing scar. "They removed it last week. Dermoid cyst. Doctor said if I'd waited another month it would have ruptured. I would have gotten sepsis." Tyler felt his chest tighten. You're okay now? Because of you? Because you weren't afraid to show your scar. They talked for 20 minutes. Tyler learned his name was David, learned he was in college studying engineering, that he'd lost his father to cancer and was terrified of doctors because of it. Learned that sometimes survival is about giving other people permission to survive too. Before David left, Tyler gave him his phone number. If you ever need to talk, about scars, about fear, about any of it, call me. That evening, Tyler visited his mother's house. Sarah had been quieter since the surgery, more fragile somehow. She'd lost too many people in her life. The fear of losing Tyler had broken something in her that was still healing. They sat in her kitchen, drinking tea neither of them wanted. The silence comfortable now in a way it hadn't been before. "I forgive you," Tyler said suddenly, "for not telling me about Samuel, about Dad's cyst, about all of it." Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "I was trying to protect you. I know. But Mom, you don't have to protect me from the truth anymore. I'm strong enough to handle it. I survived, remember?" She reached across the table and took his hand. "You did. You survived all of it. Your father would be so proud." "Tell me about him," Tyler said. "The real him. Not the perfect memory. The actual person." So Sarah did. She told him about James Carter's stubbornness, his terrible singing voice, his habit of leaving tools scattered around the garage. She told him about the dermoid cyst surgery, about how scared James had been, about how he'd made her promise not to tell Tyler if anything ever happened to him. "He didn't want you to be afraid," Sarah said. "But I think he was wrong. Fear is what makes us careful, what makes us get help." "He left me that letter," Tyler said. "He told me to get help, not to wait like he did. He loved you so much, both versions of you. He knew about the twin. And when you were born alone, he grieved Samuel with me. We both did." They talked until midnight, unpacking 23 years of secrets. It hurt, but it also healed. When Tyler finally drove home, Emma was waiting in his apartment. She'd moved in officially 2 weeks ago. Her nursing school textbooks now sharing space with his fitness certifications, her coffee mugs mixed with his protein shakers. "How'd it go with your mom?" she asked. "Good, hard, but good." He sat beside her on the couch, pulling her close. "Em? Yeah? I can get down on one knee now, without screaming." She pulled back to look at him, her eyes wide. "Tyler?" He slid off the couch, dropping carefully to one knee. His back twinged but held. From his pocket, he pulled out a small box, different from the promise ring, but matching. "Emma Louise Reynolds. You saw me when I couldn't see myself. You fought me when I needed fighting. You loved me enough to save me from my own stubbornness. I don't have a twin inside me anymore, but I want you beside me for everything else. Will you marry me?" She was crying, nodding, pulling him up before he could wait for a verbal answer. "Yes, yes, 1,000 times, yes." They married 6 months later in a small ceremony at Sarah's church. Tyler wore his father's blue shirt under his suit jacket. Emma carried a bouquet with blue, green, and white flowers, the colors of the stones in her promise ring. When the pastor asked if anyone objected, Tyler felt a breeze through the open church windows. Just wind. But he smiled anyway. "I know, Samuel. I know you're here." In the front pew, Sarah cried happy tears for the first time in 16 years. And somewhere, in whatever place exists beyond this one, 2 Samuels and a man named James watched a boy they loved become a man who'd learned that scars aren't signs of weakness. They're proof you survived something that tried to break you. And that's the strongest thing of all. Tyler's story reminds us that the strongest act isn't carrying our burdens alone, it's having the courage to let others help carry them. For 23 years, he walked through life feeling incomplete, never knowing he was carrying his twin brother Samuel inside him. How many of us carry invisible weights we've never named, old griefs, unspoken fears, losses we've learned to live with but never fully mourned? Tyler's scar became his liberation, not because the pain was gone, but because he finally understood where it came from. His father's letter, written years before Tyler would need it, proved that love transcends time, that the people who shaped us never truly leave. Emma's betrayal, going behind Tyler's back to save his life, shows us that real love sometimes means making people angry to keep them alive. Sarah's decades of secret-keeping, born from a mother's desperate need to protect, teaches us that even our mistakes come from love. And those three people who saw Tyler's scar and found the courage to seek help, that's legacy. That's how one person's survival becomes a community's healing. What invisible burden have you been carrying that you're finally ready to name? Have you ever had someone love you enough to make you angry and later realize they saved your life? Share your story below. Your words might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today.